Samsung's Galaxy S26 series is about to flip the smartphone world on its head. A brand new leak has dropped, and it doesn't just show off a new look. It makes every Galaxy flagship before it instantly feel outdated. This isn't just an upgrade. It's Samsung tearing up the rulebook and starting fresh. According to well-known Samsung leaker Phoneart, the Galaxy S26 Pro and Galaxy S26 Ultra are both adopting a bold new design, a camera island. For years, Samsung kept its cameras floating individually on the back glass. Now, that clean look is gone. The new bump fully surrounds the sensors, giving the phones a striking, muscular finish that screams next-gen premium. The Ultra, of course, stays true to its DNA. The redesign still keeps the signature periscope telephoto lens, the LED flash, and even the TOF sensor, but now all tucked neatly into this powerful new island. It feels like Samsung took the classic Ultra design and evolved it into something sharper, louder, and instantly recognizable. And then we have the Galaxy S26 Edge. This one doesn't just get a redesign, it gets a radical transformation. Phoneart's leak shows a gigantic camera island that spans across the entire top section of the back. Yes, it still only carries a dual camera setup with an LED flash, but the sheer size of the island makes a statement. It looks like Samsung designed the S26 Edge specifically to go toe-to-toe with Apple's iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max. Bold, aggressive, and unmistakably different. These details aren't just guesswork. They come from leaked third-party camera films that align perfectly with previous CAD-based renders. While legendary leaker Steve Hemmerstoffer, better known as OnLeaks, hasn't yet revealed his official Galaxy S26 Ultra CADs, the renders shared through SmartPrix already give us a clear idea of Samsung's daring new direction. But design isn't the only upgrade. Under the hood, the S26 Pro and Edge are expected to get a 300 mAh battery boost. That might sound small, but in real-world use, paired with Samsung's latest efficiency optimizations, it could mean longer screen-on time and more reliable performance. The Ultra, however, seems to be skipping any major battery or charging upgrades this time around. Though with this bold new look, Samsung clearly wants the Ultra to focus on design dominance and camera supremacy. Renowned Samsung tipster Ice Universe is back with fresh details on the upcoming Galaxy S26 Ultra. And this one might look like a small change on paper, but in reality, it could transform how the phone feels in your hand. According to Ice Universe, Samsung's next Ultra flagship will feature a more rounded front-middle frame compared to the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Instead of the sharper, boxy edges we've been used to, the S26 Ultra will have a smoother, more refined curve that blends seamlessly with the display. This isn't just cosmetic, it could make the device far more comfortable during long hours of use, while also giving it a cleaner, modern aesthetic. But that's not all. The Galaxy S26 Ultra is also rumored to be slimmer than its predecessor, coming in at just 7.9 millimeters thick, compared to the S25 Ultra's 8.2 millimeters. What makes this even more impressive is that Samsung might be pulling this off without shrinking the battery size, though we could see tweaks to charging speed or efficiency. These are subtle changes, but they highlight how Samsung is paying close attention to the small design details that make a big difference in daily use. And with leaks starting to ramp up, the Galaxy S26 series, which will reportedly include the S26 Pro, S26 Edge, and S26 Ultra, is shaping up to be one of the most refined lineups yet. Leaker Sonny Dixon just gave us our very first look at the Galaxy S26 series, and trust me, this one's interesting. You're looking at dummy leaks that hint Samsung might be chasing Apple's design language for its 2026 flagship lineup. Instead of the usual S26 and S26 Plus, Samsung is rumored to launch three models: the Galaxy S26 Pro, S26 Edge, and the S26 Ultra, all expected to arrive in February 2026. Now here's the twist. The alleged Galaxy S26 Edge dummy looks heavily inspired by the iPhone 17 Pro. It's rocking a huge camera island across the top, stretching nearly 30% of the back panel, very similar to Apple's design. Meanwhile, the Galaxy S26 Pro and S26 Ultra seem to retain that classic Samsung vibe, but with changes. The Pro might get a rear camera island, much like what we've seen on recent Galaxy A series phones. And the Ultra? It's dropping the sharp, boxy look. Instead, the corners are now noticeably more rounded compared to the S25 Ultra. Camera-wise, don't expect a total redesign. The sensor arrangement stays the same as the S25 series, but Samsung may add a raised bump for the main three lenses, while the flash and smaller rings stay separate. Another big upgrade? The dummies hint at full Qi 2 wireless charging support. That means magnets built right inside the phone pop, so no need for extra accessories to get that magnetic wireless charging experience. Of course, these are just early dummy leaks. They may or may not be the final design, and we'll get more solid confirmation once CAD renders start surfacing. But if this holds true, Samsung's S26 lineup could be one of the most Apple-inspired Galaxy generations we've seen yet. So Samsung fans, we need to talk about something important. If you were hoping that the Galaxy S26 Ultra would finally bring us a brand new main camera sensor, I've got some news for you, and it might not be exactly what you were expecting. According to Ice Universe, the S26 Ultra is not getting a fresh 200 megapixel sensor. Yeah, I know. That sounds like a bit of a letdown at first. Instead, Samsung is sticking with the exact same ISOCELL HP2 sensor that we've seen since the Galaxy S23 Ultra. It's a 1.3-inch sensor, and while it has served us well for years, people were expecting Samsung to jump to something even bigger this time, like that rumored 1.1-inch 200 megapixel Sony sensor. But nope, it looks like Samsung isn't ready to ditch the HP2 just yet. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, well, that's boring, hold on, because Samsung is actually planning a pretty major upgrade to the lens itself. This could change the way this sensor performs in a big way. Instead of the f1.7 aperture that we had on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, Samsung is reportedly going with an f1.4 aperture. And that's not just a small tweak, that's a 47% increase in the amount of light hitting the sensor. What does that mean for you? Well, in low light situations, this is huge. More light equals better night photography, sharper details, brighter images, and less noise. It's the kind of thing that could make night mode shots look way closer to what your eyes actually see. And if you've ever struggled with blurry night photos, this kind of lens upgrade is exactly what you'd want. But here's where it gets even more interesting. A wider aperture like f1.4 isn't always the best choice for bright daylight shots. Sometimes, too much light can actually wash out the details. That's why Samsung might be bringing back one of the coolest features from the past, the dual aperture system. Remember the Galaxy S10 series, the S10, the S10 Plus, and even the S10e had this feature, where the camera could switch between f1.5 and f2.4 depending on the lighting. It was such a clever idea, but for some reason, Samsung abandoned it in later models. Now, Ice Universe is saying that Samsung might resurrect that dual aperture feature, or at least introduce some kind of variable aperture system, similar to what we've seen from other smartphone brands. If that happens, you'd get the best of both worlds. f1.4 for those dim, nighttime environments, and a narrower aperture for daytime shots when you want maximum sharpness and depth of field. That could really push the S26 Ultra's photography game to the next level without even needing a brand new sensor. And let's not forget, the sensor itself isn't exactly outdated. The ISOCELL HP2 is still one of the most powerful sensors on the market. It supports crazy high resolution, detailed zoom, and it's been fine-tuned by Samsung over the last few years. Vivo. Yeah, you heard that right. Samsung might actually be building a more powerful camera for Vivo than the one it's putting inside its own Galaxy S26 Ultra. Let's break this down, because the details are pretty wild. According to new reports, Vivo is preparing to launch its next flagship, the Vivo X300, and it could debut with a brand new 200 megapixel main camera. But here's the twist. It's being supplied by none other than Samsung itself. The sensor is reportedly called the ISOCELL HP-B. Now, this isn't the rumored HP-10 successor. It's actually an upgraded version of Samsung's HP-9, but customized specifically for Vivo. And apparently the B in HP-B stands for Blue Factory, which is Vivo's nickname. So essentially, Samsung is letting Vivo launch a custom-built 200 megapixel beast before Samsung even puts anything like it inside its own phones. Now, what makes this HPB sensor so exciting? First, it supports ultra-clear 200 megapixel shots at a 23mm focal length. On top of that, it can deliver 50 megapixel ultra-clear images at 50mm zoom. This gives Vivo's upcoming flagship a massive advantage in terms of detail, flexibility, and overall camera performance. And here's where it gets really spicy. While Vivo is getting this next-gen custom sensor, Samsung's very own Galaxy S26 Ultra is reportedly sticking with a much smaller 1/2.55-inch telephoto sensor. That puts the S26 Ultra's zoom game behind Vivo's, at least based on what we know right now. Think about that for a second. Samsung, the same company that supplies the world with some of the most advanced camera sensors, is holding back on its own flagship while giving Vivo a cutting edge customized sensor. That's not the move you'd expect when competition with Apple is heating up and the iPhone 17 Pro is about to raise the bar again in mobile photography. Now let's talk about the Galaxy S26 Ultra for a moment. From what we've heard, the phone is scheduled to launch around February 2026. That's still a while away, but the leak suggests Samsung isn't really making any major upgrades to the other three cameras compared to the S25 Ultra. The only real focus right now seems to be on software and AI. And don't get me wrong, Samsung's AI push is huge and definitely going to define the next generation of Galaxy phones. But here's the question. Is that enough to keep Samsung competitive if its hardware isn't keeping pace?